Welcome to Faith in 5, a weekly video devotional designed to discuss practical spiritual concepts in 5 minutes or less. I'm your host, Mark Vandella. When I was a kid, we used to take a lot of summer trips to my grandparents' house. They lived on a lake in Indiana, and it was always a blast. Sometimes I would even go by myself while my parents would drop me off, but I'd stay for like a full week just with my grandparents, and I loved it. But what I didn't love was one time I put the wrong gas in our jet skis. So I grabbed the can of pre-mix instead of not mixed, put it in there, and I didn't want to tell my grandpa that I put the wrong gas in because I didn't want to look dumb. He wouldn't have been, it probably would have been just fine. So my cousin and I developed an idea, kind of a harebrained deal. We went and found a hose, and we decided we were going to siphon all of the gas out of this jet ski. And so we put the hose in and put our mouths up to the hose and sucked as hard as we could and got a mouthful of gas. Now, if you've ever done this, if you've ever tried to siphon gas, whether it's the actual gas or the fumes that you get, you taste gas for like an entire week. It's terrible. It's awful. I would have been better off just like trashing the jet ski and letting it run poorly. I tell you the story because a lot of times in our lives, especially in our faith journey, we put the wrong fuel in our bodies. We're in the third week of our road trip series where we're talking about what God wants for us on this journey of life. And rule number 3 is all about fuel. Make sure you put the right fuel in your tank. Right? If you picture a VW bus, that's what I think about when I think about road trips, even though I've literally never been in one. But I just picture a VW bus going down the road, and if you put the wrong gas in it, it's going to break down. If you don't change your oil in the right amount of time, right, 3,000 to 5,000 miles, it's going to break down. If you don't check your tire pressure and it gets too low, it's going to break down. There are so many things that we kind of need to pay attention to and maintain, but one of the most important ones is our fuel. And so oftentimes when I talk to people about God, and especially people who don't like God or don't have God as a part of their life at all, they don't like all the rules. And people often say like, I just couldn't follow a God who makes me do this or says I can't do this. And I really like to think about the Bible as more like a user manual in the glove box of my VW bus. Because it really is talking about, I know how you function best. Like I created you, right? So I know how you function best. And if you put the wrong fuel in, you're going to break down. Or it's going to be really painful if you try to siphon the wrong stuff out. It's going to taste horrible and it's going to be awful. And so when I think about the Bible, anytime you're reading the Bible or hearing about what God wants for your life, it's because he knows what makes you run and operate best. One of my favorite verses about kind of putting the right fuel in our bodies, it's this concept of like garbage in, garbage out. If we put terrible things in our vehicles, our bodies, our minds, then we get terrible out. And so in Luke 6:45, it says, a good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart. And an evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. It's pretty simple, right? If you've got bad fuel, you're not going to run well. If you've got good fuel, you're going to run well. What you say flows from what's in your heart. And so if we have bad fuel, we can't really manufacture, like you can't limp along on the wrong mix. You can't limp along on zero fuel. And so in our spiritual lives, we have to consider how much are we putting in and what are we putting in? Is it connected to God? Is God the fuel? And are we regularly connected to that source that makes us go and function as best as possible? The Message version says it even better. I love the Message version of Luke 6:45. It says, you don't get wormy apples off a healthy tree, nor do good apples fall from a deceased tree. The health of an apple tells the health of the tree. You must begin with your own life-giving tree. It's who you are, not what you say and do that counts. Your true being brims over into true words and deeds. And so in this series, you'll see that we will shift from how do we make sure that we take care of our bus and what we do, so that we'll make a pivot and shift. How do we bring other people along on our bus? And so there's kind of two components to living out this faith life. As you live out your faith life this week, consider what you're using to fuel your life. How connected to God are you? What's pouring out of you? How long can you run doing exactly what you're doing? Are you running on empty or on the wrong fuel? Start there, because again, the Message version says that you must begin with your own life-giving tree first. And as we figure that out and we start making sure that we're full of the right stuff, then that starts to spill over and impact the rest of the world. So this week, consider, what are you fueling your body with? And is it the right stuff?